and welcome back to ImpactEd.
Today is the first of a series of episodes looking at the situational analysis. Today we're going to break the process down. We'll highlight each key step and each key element within the situational analysis. We'll step you through a process that will ensure that you end up with a high quality situational analysis that you can use to inform your new school planning process.
And this is a really important juncture. If we don't put some effort into planning at this point, then all of the effort and goodwill that we do invest in the situational analysis will not turn into the results that you're after.
The department's put together a really good graphic that I think we can use as an organiser. It looks at the 3 steps, so why don't we pull that one out, James, and have a look now.
Okay. If you've had a chance to look at the materials provided by the department, you will have come across this diagram. The language here is really important and we think really simplifies the steps of the process. The language used is looking inward, looking outward, and looking forward. Let's break those down and have a look at what that means.
So the very first component of any situational analysis is to look internally, to have a look at what we've been doing, to collect information, to highlight those things and make judgments around whether they're effective or not as effective as they could be or should be.
Once we've looked inside, we should look outside. What outside of the school is pointing the way for us? Is it the research base? Is it things that are happening in other schools? Is it opportunities that exist within the department or within our community of schools?
And finally, the last component is the synthesis, bringing both the internal and external views back in to one point, looking forward. How can we do things differently? Where's the possibility for innovation? The things that didn't work, discard them. Or if they should have worked, we need to look at how we adapt and take them forward.
And the first two set the scene for the third, so there's a definite order there in which this must occur. But just as an aside, I think the real educational leadership in a school takes place in that third triangle.
Oh, absolutely, James. And as we've highlighted, the importance of getting the situational analysis right and investing the time is just an absolute priority.
So quite a good summary there, Steve. We've got those 3 generic triangles looking inward, looking outward and looking forward, the final one being the synthesis. How do we turn that into a workable day-to-day plan?
Well, let's now break it down into the key steps, James. The very first of which is communication. We're going to guide you through a process to ensure that all of your key stakeholders are informed, highlight the changes within the process, including it now being a 4-year cycle, and make sure that people understand the purpose of the evaluation and how it will inform your plan.
Step 2 is to make sure you're across the available resources, and by resources I mean the planning templates, the instructions, the milestones, and luckily we're going to go through that all together as a group of 2 networks.
So to pull this all together, we're going to help you develop an evaluation plan, highlight who your team will be, roles and responsibility, and key milestones along the way to make sure that you stay on task.
Then there's 3 areas where we really need to look in great detail: literacy, numeracy and student wellbeing. And so we will be giving you tools and a process to step through those, and we'll be inviting guest speakers on.
We know that school improvement is the only game in town, and the school targets are going to be a key feature within your school plan. We're going to guide you through evaluating where you are in relation to your targets and your current trajectory, and then using that to inform your future actions.
And then we need to have a close look at what you are currently doing. What have you been working on in your plan? What's working? What needs to stay?
One of the key changes with this situational analysis is the need to base all of our future actions on research. We're going to take you through quite a bit of contemporary research, but also look at some tools that you can utilise to inform what you do.
And so that brings us to the end of the looking inward and looking outward, and then the looking forward section comes into play, and that's where we will give you a couple of different theories around how to take those findings and turn them into conclusions and a way forward for your school.
Finally, we know that your key stakeholders will be involved in the development of your situational analysis. However, the very final step is a formal process to make sure that there's authentic collaboration and consultation between the school, the community, the AECG, P&C and student body, and we'll take you through that process in a very stepped and logical way.
Now, the template that you see on screen will be available on the website as if you need that to work through back at your school.
Yep. Links down below.
So essentially we're talking about 12 separate steps that you may choose to go through, but that will give you a framework that will give you a really good result for your situational analysis. But what we want to do right now is to just look at those first 3 steps: communicate, resources and plan to evaluate, and have a bit of a deeper look at that right now. Communicating your school plan is a very visible, very tangible and very outward sign of your leadership of the school. It is telling the school community that you are accountable and responsible for this site, and that you are going to lead the entire school community through a process that makes sense of where it is right now and where you're going to take it.
So James, who are the key stakeholders that principals should be looking to communicate with?
You would start with your staff, because they're going to be very involved in the process of the situational analysis. You will at some point want to form a team. We'll be talking about that later. I think it's really important that the entire school community knows that this process exists and that it's going on at this moment in time.
And I think it's an opportunity to foreshadow what you intend to do. So if your school's going to be looking to run forums, it's an opportunity for you to announce that, and you'll start to get people volunteering. But certainly if you come to them a month down the track, they'll be much better prepared.
And there is a role for all of your key stakeholder groups to play in this process.
And I think going to groups like the P&C and the AECG right at the beginning to talk to them about the process will pay dividends. Step 2 is about the resources provided by the department, and we're both highly complimentary of the high quality materials the department's provided on the website. We have 2 days where our combined networks will be coming together this term, and we'll work alongside Jen Park to step each principal through those valuable resources. That then takes us on to the third component, which is making a plan to conduct your evaluation. The very first step in this is to identify a team. And I think your team should absolutely have representation of all key stakeholder groups. It's quite important that you articulate, though, what that's going to look like and what the commitment is. And I think that list that we created, James, is the ideal spot to start.
Yeah, you wouldn't be delegating planning itself. You will, as site leader, as school leader, as key educational leader on site, be taking charge of that process yourself. But there will be elements of it that you delegate to people within your team.
And look, that's a great process to assign those roles and responsibility. It allows for that leadership density to be built within the school, but also allows for more buy-in. No principal can run every single component, and even if they did, there wouldn't be the belief in the true situation analysis at the end.
And if you go back to that list which we've provided, it gives an opportunity for people to nominate the areas they're interested in or where they have a skill set that could be brought to bear.
And then the final step in planning to evaluate is to conduct a grant chart, using the 11 steps that we've highlighted to look at when the school is going to commit to having those completed, what amount of time you're going to need to allocate, and for principals to purchase some time for the staff to be available.
So you can plan to engage others, plan to report back, plan to communicate openly throughout the whole process.
Yeah. We'll also have a draft template that principals may wish to use available on the website and indicated down below.
Yep. All right, that brings us to the end of another episode of ImpactEd. Thanks for being with us. We've finished back with the 11 steps. We're really confident that if you work through those 11 steps with your team, that you will have a high quality situational analysis, which will in turn lead to a high quality plan.
In our next episode, we're going to be looking at literacy, and James is going to guide us through a tool that he's led the development of to look at reading, and I know that you'll find that extremely useful.
See you next time.